So, Fnatic and Gen G faced off this morning in the second best of 5 of MSI knockouts, and Gen G won in a not so convincing 3-0. A couple of the games, namely 2 and 3, were pretty close, especially game 2 was an absolute banger of a game. And I just wanted to talk briefly about, the West still not winning a game so far in the bracket stage, and kind of expectations moving forward for some of these teams. So, obviously, yesterday, Team Liquid got utterly pub stomped by Top Esports 3-0, and Fnatic this morning got 3-0'd by Gen G. Game 1 was pretty convincing in favor of Gen G. Game 2 was very, very close. Could have gone either way. And Game 3 was close for a little bit, and then it kind of wasn't. The point being in all of this is that Fnatic is the 2 seed from Europe. They looked pretty solid in play-ins. They looked competitive with Top Esports. And to be honest, they looked pretty competitive here against Gen G. They definitely had some moments of fighting back. They even had some moments where they looked much better than Gen G. This was by no means a clean series from Gen G. It was very, very messy, especially, I would say, from Canyon and Keen getting caught out in side lane and alone a lot. And they kind of left the door open, let's say, for Fnatic to make a comeback. The overall feeling I got from this series, though, is that maybe Fnatic and G2 actually do have a chance to, win a series or take some games off of some Western teams. That being said, do we expect either of the Western teams left? I'm not really counting Team Liquid at this point, but I'll just say European teams at this point. Do we really expect them to go far in the tournament or have a chance at winning? No. But with the standard and the expectations the way they are now, I'm just looking in terms of, can they be competitive? Can they take some games off and make a series out of it? And I think that Fnatic was honestly on their way to doing that this morning. A couple things go differently, a couple different decisions made here and there, and it's definitely a really competitive series. Again, Fnatic definitely could have won game 2, and honestly, I'm convinced the entire reason it was as close as it was because of the Lucian build actually being relevant and doing damage. Imagine if he had been first strike this game, he would have done 0 damage to this Cassante, and Fnatic would have just gotten run over. But in general, it was a decently competitive series. It was a competitive game 2 at the least. And so, maybe this could be a blueprint for something. Competition at its core really depends on who shows up on any given day. Of course, there are better teams, and the better team usually ends up winning. But by no means does that mean that, the weaker team can have some upset potential, or the better team can have an off day or something like that. I think that Gen G definitely, like I said, left the door open in a lot of opportunities today. They did not play a clean series whatsoever. So I think that, maybe if G2 were to face up against Gen G, or if T1 has a rough day in a few days and doesn't show up well, then G2 could definitely have a chance here. Again, just talking about the European teams because North America is an absolute joke. But I think that honestly, it was better than I anticipated. Even though I predicted 3-1 and it was 3-0, the games were actually close. If you actually watch what happened and watch the gameplay, it was actually pretty close, pretty even in a lot of circumstances. So I'm actually more impressed with Fnatic than I am disappointed. Because I think that this opened the door for some Western success, not only with Fnatic and G2 this year, but perhaps in coming years. If Korea continues to be messy like this in knockout stages, then it's definitely possible to take games off and make competitive series there. Of course, I'm not delusional. This isn't going to happen every single series, and Gen G is also known for their international blunders. But I'm just saying in general, if an Eastern team has an off day, and Western teams are able to, play aggressive, pick champs with agency like the Xin Zhao, like the Lucian, and kind of make a scrappy game out of it, then I think that might be the best path forward to competing with the Eastern regions. So overall, this series was at the very least fun to watch. I enjoyed watching it, and I of course enjoyed the Lucian build in game 2. Again, I'm convinced that that was the only reason that it was a close game. You can see in these team fights the Lucian is actually pumping out a lot of DPS, and that's entirely because of the build, which is really, really great to see. And I hope that more people start doing that build because it is very optimal. If you haven't checked out my video from yesterday on that Lucian build, make sure you check it out. And hopefully we can continue to see that build in the future. Anyways, that's a bit off topic. But moving forward for both of these teams, Gen G, I don't know who they're facing next. I want to say it's going to be the loser of G2 T1. I think. I'm not positive on that. But, you know, if Gen G plays like they did today, I honestly might favor G2 in that series. Obviously, it depends on how G2 looks against T1 and whether or not T1 actually wins. But I think that the way Gen G played today, it left the door open for them to be beaten for sure. And as they came in to the tournament as heavy favorites to win the entire thing, quite frankly, I think based on today's performance, they're actually quite beatable, especially when it comes to facing off against other really strong Eastern teams. So it's going to be really interesting moving forward to watch Gen G and see if they can clean up their gameplay a little bit. And for Fnatic, on the other hand, I just hope that they can offer another competitive series, whoever they face next. This was really enjoyable to watch, and even though they had, you know, a lot of bad moments and a lot of moments, they also had a lot of good ones and a lot of strong moments where I was actually pretty excited for the gameplay. They definitely made Gen G work for it. They made it a challenge. They made it a pretty competitive series, even though it was a 3-0. That's really not indicative of how close the series was. So that's really all I'm looking for from Western teams at this point is competition. It doesn't have to be, you know, a 3-2 series. It doesn't have to be this super banger series, and they don't even have to win. I'm just looking for competition and Western teams being able to challenge the Eastern teams. So moving forward, that's really what I'm looking for the remainder of this MSI. Hopefully Team Liquid can have a better showing in their second series than they did in their first one. But we'll have to see what the West has to offer for the rest of the tournament, and of course moving into the World Championship later this year. That's all I got for this one. Tomorrow's series is going to be PSG versus Bilibili. Not really much to expect out of that series. It's probably going to be a complete stomp, but you never know. PSG is kind of sleeper, and they're always pretty good when it comes as far as wildcard teams go. So, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.